Over the last few years or so, many tactical shooters have popped up, and it seems that as a genre, it's picked up a lot of popularity and steam lately. However, once in a while, one or two of them reveal and really catch my attention. Grey Zone Warfare is one of those games based on the first trailer and info that we received in the last couple of days. And I have to tell you, it's given me big original Ghost Recon vibes here. First person, massive levels, tactical squad play. It looks like there's an element of an extraction shooter here too with PvP. If that sounds good to you, keep on watching. If you play a lot of mobile games such as Dead Trigger 1 and 2 or even Shadowgun Dead Zone, not that I'd heard of them before I did a bit of research, then you may be familiar with the developer of Grey Zone Warfare, Madfinger Games. And believe it or not, those games have had almost 200 million downloads between them on mobile. They're award-winning games, and this means that Madfinger is absolutely a AAA studio when it comes to making big popular titles. But the game we're looking at today is not a mobile game. Oh no. It's an immersive, realistic tactical shooter for PC releasing in 2024. And it looks very interesting. It's also a big departure from the developer's mobile game background in the past. We've only got a limited amount of gameplay so far though, and what we do have is pre-alpha. So as always, we need to take that into consideration, but on first impressions, it definitely looks promising. So let's take a deeper dive in now. The game takes place on a fictional island in Southeast Asia called the Democratic Republic of Lemang. Supposedly, the whole area has been put under international quarantine, and because of that, the majority of the civilian population has been evacuated by the United Nations. The island won't be empty though, of course. 3 PMCs or private military companies have been sent to the region to not only find out what's been going on, but to bring back anything of value. 3 PMCs armed to the gills on one quarantined island. What could possibly go wrong? The developers said that the playable area of Lemang is 42 kilometers squared in size, but that's not the most interesting thing about the game in my opinion. It's actually a persistent world that keeps on living even when you're not playing. Precisely what that means, I'm not sure, but I presume that it's to do with the weather, the seasons, and other players affecting the map in some way. But it does sound intriguing, right? You'll also have access to helicopters to get you around, and we did get a glimpse of the classic little bird, presumably a squad mate dropping by to pick up their team. If there are helicopters, then I think it's a fair assumption that there will be various other air vehicles too, and plenty of ground vehicles as well, but nothing we can confirm just yet. The map though, the visuals in general, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? It reminded me of Crysis at first because of the setting and the vibe. You have a dense jungle with small camps dotted around, as well as some built up areas and towns. And you guessed it, Grey Zone is running on Unreal Engine 5, so that already brings with it a large expectation of looking visually good, especially when it comes to the lighting. The sweeping panoramic shots of the environment look great, and the Republic of Lemang is supposedly inspired by the real location of Laos. So at its core, in terms of gameplay, Grey Zone is a realistic tactical shooter. Think games like Squad or Arma if you want something to compare it to. But maybe there's a bit of Escape from Tarkov here as well. The game will feature an extensive list of weapon customization, allowing you to create firearms that suit your own needs and playstyle. There will be, and I quote, this is what the devs have said, hundreds of various parts, mounts and accessories to customize your weapon and the behavior and performance. Not only that, but the game will feature full ballistic simulation too. Importantly though, the devs have said that every fight could result in the loss of your hard-earned gear and progress. While we don't know the exact details yet, we do know that the world will be filled with AI and other human operators. It definitely sounds like it's leaning towards the extraction shooter side of things, in a similar vein to Escape from Tarkov. Madfinger CEO and co-founder Marek Rabas did share some more information on Twitter. He said there will be 3 PMCs in the game, which we've already talked about, but each will have 16 players with a max of 4 people in a squad. So if I've understood that correctly, there could be a total of 48 human players in a game across 3 of the factions. He also went on to say that there will be over 1,000 AI enemies around the world too. To further add to that, the games will be session based, so that means no timers or time limits. How that works in practice we'll have to see. Grey Zone says it also has a unique health system that leans on the realistic side of things. The aim of this system is to try and simulate the human body and the effects of being injured by a bullet. So you don't just have a certain amount of health like you would in more arcadey games, although players who've played games like Arma, Tarkov or even DayZ will be familiar with that type of system. Each injury can affect your perception and performance, and as the player you'll need to correctly identify the issue and find the right solution to fix it. I don't think this will be as complicated as it sounds, to be honest. I imagine that there will be stages of injury depending on how badly you were hit, bleeding damage, wounding damage, etc., like we've seen in other games, and you'll need to find the right medical item to suit your injury. In the gameplay clips we saw some various healing methods. We saw painkillers, a player putting a tourniquet on their arm, presumably to stop bleeding, and we know from the inventory system that you'll have access to bandages and a survival kit. The game has numerous status bars that you'll need to keep on top of. Blood is the obvious one that can be affected by being shot. Hydration will require you to find and consume water. We saw a player doing that in the gameplay. Energy is another one, and there are energy bars and MREs that you can acquire, and once again we saw footage of a player consuming those too. They didn't look very appetizing though, but if you're hungry, anything will do. And then we've got the weight system, which will ensure you watch what you're carrying, and intoxication, radiation. I can only assume that you don't want to let those two last bars get very high. Could get you in trouble. I wonder if the radiation side of things will somehow play into the game's story. Time will tell. And just touching a little further on the inventory, you pretty much got what you would expect here. Main weapon, secondary, armor slot and various other cosmetic slots. Your main inventory can hold all of your medical items and food as well as your weapon mags, and presumably items that you find that you think are worth keeping. There is a case here called the R40 in your inventory, which to me looks like a safe slot where you can put one item or maybe two that will be kept if you die, similar to the cases in Tarkov, which to me leans again into this being an extraction game. I tried to find out some more information about the core gameplay, but there doesn't seem to be anything concrete out there just yet. Maybe they aren't ready to talk about it or whatever, or perhaps it's not as simple as just being another extraction game. There could be a twist. There's definitely many elements at play here. There is a story to the game too, if you're into that, which is labelled as mature, and this story will be told through the various missions that you'll take part in, as well as through the colourful cast of characters who will apparently have their own secrets and agenda. Honestly, the description of the story sounds more like a crime novel. It goes like this: navigate the web of lies, decide who you can trust, and expose the truth. Nothing is black and white, only different shades of grey. I see what they've done there. It all sounds very interesting, doesn't it? And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing a bit more, because right now all we've got is a few minutes of gameplay, a few screenshots, low quality GIFs, but it's definitely grabbed my attention. It's nice to see a larger, more colourful, vibrant setting. That jungle environment, as I mentioned, very reminiscent of the old Ghost Recon games. Obviously Tarkov is in that same space too, but that's kind of grey and brown, everything's broken down. So yeah, refreshing change. Grey Zone Warfare is due to release next year, and while their website currently only lists Steam, I do expect that it will release on consoles too. We've got no word on pricing just yet, but with Madfinger being a prominently mobile game dev, a free game with MTX is not out of the question. And that's all for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed this and found it entertaining, insightful. Let me know your thoughts below. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Drop me a like, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.